Okay, I have a track record for some of the dumbest movie opinions of all time. Okay, now everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I perfectly know that. Hell, I'm one of the people that promotes that idea the most. But time after time after time, I have opinions that get people riled. Not they don't get people riled up, but they just have a strangeness to them that people keep questioning. Like, I liked the live action Tom and Jerry movie. I didn't like Home Alone 2, and one of the dumbest ones of all, I liked Ice Age 5, one of the most despised movies of all time. So you can probably guess that I'm not excited to do this video. Why? Because I'm reviewing one of the biggest movies of all time, and guess what? I have an unpopular opinion of it. Who would have guessed? So, I'm really begging you. Please, please, please don't crucify me after this video. I mean, my opinion on this movie will probably be the most controversial take of Titanic of all time. Like, hands down, nothing can be worse than this. It's just, nothing can be worse than this at all. So, here goes. After a minute and a half build up, here goes nothing. I think, in my personal opinion, the Titanic is a bad movie. Can't even go 1 second, can you? It's true. This movie sucks. But also, it doesn't at the same time. Let me explain, okay? So, Titanic is one of the most expensive and most famous movies of all time. And it's not hard to see why. The movie was released in 1997, and I think around, well, it happened, and I think around, December of 1997, so during award season. And, movies during award season, they have to cater to the Oscars as much as humanly possible. But, honestly, honest to God, this movie is just so boring in the first half. And now you're probably thinking, what? If you like this movie, then why do you say boring in the first half? Well, even though I will get to the second half in the second half of the video probably, I will talk about more about the first half. Because everyone talks about the second half, the whole sinking out of the Titanic. And I'll just get on with it here. It's the best part of the movie. Like, they really capture the horror and the depression that happened during this time, during this horrible day where the Titanic sank. I mean, like, the effects, the editing, the cinematography, it's all great. And they do capture a lot of fleeting moments where it shows the horrors of what happened on Titanic on that fateful day. And it's incredibly well done and effective, but that's the thing. It's just the first half, the second half. That's all fine and dandy, but I'm not talking about the second half, because everyone knows how great the second half is. But what I'm talking about for most of this video is the first half, because holy hell, it's so bad, and is the main positive reason why I think this movie sucks. So let's get into why I think the first half sucks. So, what's the movie about? Well, it's about not the Titanic, actually. Yeah, so for the first half of this movie, it's not actually focused on the Titanic itself. Yeah, it's there to tell the film, and they do talk about Titanic and how great it is. But the actual plot of the movie is a romance movie. My favorite! And it follows a romance between two people, Rose and Jack. Rose is a fancy schmancy woman who hates being fancy schmancy, but she meets this poor artist named Jack, and they begin to get into a little relationship, which angers her fiance. What's his name? Cockley? What the hell's his name? Keldon Hackby, I was close enough. Seriously, I cannot remember most of the names in this movie because they're so boring. From what I can remember, the name of the Bill Paxton character is Drake. The name of the Italian guy is Fizzaroli. I know the Irish guy is named Tommy Ryan for no particular reason, not because I'm Irish and I'm biased. But seriously, all the characters in this movie are so unmemorable, and this is from memory, or just looking down at the Wikipedia page a couple minutes before recording this. But anyways, back onto the film itself. So these is one of the negatives that I have with this movie, is that the fictional characters are so boring and unlikable, except for one, Jack. Jack is the only character of the fictional characters I actually like in this film. He's funny, he's likable, and his death, spoilers, but like, who hasn't seen this film, is very tragic. But like, I feel more bad for the real people that died on this thing, not the made up people. Like, the romance in this movie is so boring. I'm sure Kate Winslet is great in other films, but she's just so dull and lifeless here. I don't buy the romance at all. And she keeps switching accents, and all the other performances are so boring, generic, and lifeless. Billy Zane just plays the typical villain. Rose's mother is just the typical stern parental figure that also manipulates her because why not? This is Titanic. Might as well not be about the Titanic. Yeah, Billy Zane as a butler who's played by David Warner. He was he was really bad in that other film, Airport 79. I hated it, but I still prefer his performance in that because I actually like him. He's just so unlikable in this movie. Yeah, you're meant to hate him, but like, he's just a nosy piece of crap. All the other characters are boring, unlikable, or just simply just nothing. They're nothing characters. All the fictional characters, excluding Jack, are boring archetypes and nothing else. Brock is the explorer, or Brock's his name, the Bill Paxton character, because it's James Cameron, so we gotta have him in a. Oh wait, he was in True Lies? That's surprising. We gotta have Bill Paxton in a James Cameron movie because it's a James Cameron movie. Did I mention this is a James Cameron movie? And like, I'm just really stretching my calves thing with this. Like, this first half is so dreadful and so long. Did I mention this movie has a horrible pacing problem? Even in the amazing second half, it's dragged down because of the pacing, because it wants to show as much as possible. But there are some things that didn't need to be shown. Like, this movie is 3 hours long, and you feel every one of those minutes. 195 minutes. Christ. Ben-Hur was faster than this movie. And Ben-Hur, keep in mind, was 212 minutes. And I actually watched it. And it's great. Not this. This isn't great. This is bad. Bad James Cameron. You should know better. Now, granted, I have seen only a couple of his movies, and by a couple I mean like half of them. From his current filmography of only 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 films, I've only seen 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of them. And if I had to do a ranking, then Titanic would be at the bottom, and then it would be Avatar, then Avatar The Way of Water, then The Abyss, then The Terminator, then Terminator 2. Like, come on, it's just simple facts. Now, I'm sure that his first film, Piranha 2, is probably much worse than Titanic. And I don't even have to watch a film to know, yeah, it is. Because it was a... that was a weird voice crack. Because it was a director for hire project. James Cameron was just doing visual effects first, and then he got hired to be the director because the original director was like, no. So, yeah. Technically, that's his first movie, but also no, because even though it is a water film, it is nothing like the other water films that this guy has made. This guy loves water. I mean, he's made four movies that surround the water. Hell, he has a movie that literally has water in the title, and it's alliteration. The Way of Water. This guy isn't even hiding it. But back to Titanic. So I've already explained that the writers can write, the director can direct, and the actors, the fictional actors, can't act. So let's see, what else is not good about this film? Well, there's the characters, the writing. It's just really bad-ish. The pacing as well. The pacing is really bad. But, like, that's really bad-ish, I guess. It's not that many negatives. There are movies with higher ratings than this that have a lot more negatives. But it's just the negatives in this one are so much more apparent and noticeable than any other bad film I've seen. Or films that have higher ratings than this. Like, sure, it's not as bad as other films I've seen. But that doesn't mean I'll give it a higher rating simply because it has less negatives. It doesn't matter if you have less negatives or more. It matters if how egregious they are or how minimal they are. Like, this movie has really bad fictional characters, excluding Jack. Horrible pacing that feels like it goes on forever, even though it's only 3 hours, which still, it goes on forever. And the writing is really bad for the fictional characters to the point where they don't have any personality. But, like, that's really about it. That's all I don't like about this film, but that doesn't mean that it gets a higher rating from me. I still stand by the fact that this is a bad film. But that doesn't mean I can't see why other people love it, or other people praise it as one of the best films of all time. But, yeah. It won lots of awards, for 11 to be exact, tied with Ben-Hur and Return of the King for the most awards at the Oscars won. The film took a long time to make, and yeah, there is effort. I will say this. There is effort. But the problems like the horrible pacing, the boring fictional characters, excluding Jack, and the lifeless writing and direction just makes this movie very boring for the first half. And like I said, the second half, it's the better part of the film because it actually is interesting and tragic. But you have to wait. It's not like the movie Click where you have to wait through 2/3 of a bad film to get to the good stuff. No, you have to wait through 1 hour and 37 minutes, which is just as long as a regular Adam Sandler film, to get to the good stuff. So you have to sit through essentially the length of a bad comedy to get to a good, like, film. The best way I could describe this film better than that is through this analogy. So imagine you meet an old friend from out of town, like you just bump into the mall or something, and then you chat for a bit, but for way longer than you thought. And for 1 hour and 37 minutes, that other guy that I haven't met in a good while just talks about random stuff, gabbers on about random stuff that happened, and you don't care. And just as you're about to leave, he begins telling you about this tragic thing that happened, and then you're invested for another 1 hour and 37 minutes before you part ways. That's what this film feels like. For 1 hour and 37 minutes, the movie is boring, unfocused, and just plain idiotic. But for the second half, it's tragic, beautiful, well-directed, and has great effects for 1997. Even if the green screening for the night sky is pretty bad. I will admit, it's really bad. But still, that's my opinion on Titanic. It is a bad film. objectively for me. And I'm the only person that thinks this, because everyone else praises this movie as a cinematic masterpiece. And that's fine. They can like what they like. But that doesn't mean that I have to like this movie. I don't like it. It's a 4.5 out of 10 from me. Still, Lion King is better because, it's shorter and it looks nicer. That's really about it. There, so I've said my opinion of Titanic. Actually, it was a lot easier than I thought. I mean, yeah, my house got blew up, but, it's fine. It's not like I'm dead or anything. It's not like I'm gonna get more mad at a film that's even worse, and that'll probably be the 100th episode of the show. Why is this not working? Oh, god damn it.